Okay, so maybe you've dealt with international documents before, maybe not. But this whole world of apostles, and now digital apostles, well, it keeps changing, doesn't it? Today on the deep dive, we're really going to try and cut through some of the latest confusion about getting your UK apostles accepted overseas. Because, even if you think you've got it figured out, the rules might have shifted just yesterday. So our mission really for this deep dive is to unpack all that. We're using insights from a really solid guide, plus, the know-how from teams who handle literally thousands of these cross-border legalizations every year.
Yeah, and honestly, getting your head around these details, it can save you so much time, quite a bit of money, and frankly, a lot of stress, a lot of headaches you just don't need. At its heart, an apostille is pretty simple. It just certifies that a public document like a birth certificate or degree is authentic, so it can be used internationally. It's all linked to the Hague Convention of 1961. That was, well, revolutionary, really. It simplified the whole legalization mess between, what is it now, over 120 countries, made things much, much easier.
Right, that Hague Convention. 1961, it sounds foundational.
Yeah.
Maybe for those of us not around back then, what was the old way like? The cumbersome system it replaced. Why was it such a game changer?
Oh, it was. Well, before the convention, you often needed multiple layers of seals and stamps. You'd start with, say, a local notary.
Okay.
Then maybe a government department had to certify that, and then you'd have to go to the embassy or consulate of the country you were sending it to.
Yeah, for every single document.
Exactly. Imagine the time and cost. The convention basically said, look, let's have one standard certificate, the apostille, that all member countries agree to recognize. Just cut through all that red tape. But, and this is really important, despite being so widely used, it's not totally universal. Not every country is in the club, so to speak.
Right.
And even among the members, not all of them are quite ready for the electronic versions, the e-Apostilles. And that's where things can still get a bit, well, tricky, which is why we're digging into it now. Now, if we talk about the traditional paper UK Apostilles, the ones with the physical stamp and seal, their reach globally is honestly pretty vast. We were talking more than 120 countries accepting a UK apostille that's been issued by the FCDO.
That's the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, right? Kind of like the UK's State Department.
Precisely. Issued by them or sometimes by an authorized provider acting on their behalf.
Okay, over 120 countries.
That's huge. It really shows how effective that convention has been. Can you give us a feel for where these are? Is it mainly Europe or does it stretch further?
Oh, it's properly global. You've got all the EU countries, naturally, so France, Germany, Italy, Spain, all of those.
Right.
But then you've also got loads of Commonwealth nations, think Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. And then key trading partners scattered everywhere. The USA, Mexico, Japan, South Korea, Brazil. The list goes on. It's extensive. Yeah, that definitely takes a weight off your mind if you're planning something big overseas. Knowing your paperwork is generally good to go in so many key places. But, well, everything's going digital, isn't it? So you have to ask, what about a digital apostille? An e-apostille? That really feels like the next step.
It certainly does. And the advantages are clear.
Like what?
Well, they're faster, obviously. No postage, no waiting for couriers. They're completely paper-free, which is great. And just ideal for processes you're handling remotely, maybe from a different country entirely. A real game changer, as you said. Right now, based on what we're seeing and research from folks like 2 e-Apostilles who handle this daily, UK e-Apostilles are definitely gaining ground in certain countries.
Okay, so where are we seeing good uptake?
Well, Spain is a big one. They tend to accept them for most legal and business uses. Italy is another key place, especially for things like academic records or tax documents.
Interesting.
The Netherlands, too, they're known for being quite digital first in their administration, so e-Apostilles fit right in there.
Makes sense.
The USA is, well, it's a bit more complicated. Acceptance really depends on the specific state you're dealing with. Some are fine with digital, others still insist on the paper version.
Aha, okay. That's a crucial detail.
Yeah, definitely. And then you've got places like Mexico, Colombia, South Korea. They're also showing, increasing readiness for digital.
I remember reading a quote from Dominic Chia at 2 e-Apostille, saying something like, the e-Apostille is more than a modern convenience in many countries. It's becoming the new normal. But that U.S. example, That's where it gets really interesting, isn't it? Does that mean, like, you could send a UK e-apostille for a visa thing to California and it's fine, but try the same thing in Florida and they say no?
Hmm.
What's the biggest sort of trap someone could fall into here, especially if it is becoming the new normal?
That's exactly the challenge. And the U.S. situation isn't just some oddity. It actually highlights something really important when you deal with federal systems or anywhere with regional differences. You just can't assume that because it works in one part of the country or for one government department, it'll work everywhere else.
Right.
Decentralization means inconsistency is possible, even likely sometimes. So, yeah, an e-apostille might be perfect for one state agency, but rejected by another one down the road. The biggest pitfall. Assuming it's all uniform, you have to check the specific requirements for the specific place and purpose. This whole digital landscape with its country-by-country, sometimes state-by-state rules, well, it just means you need to plan carefully. Knowing the specifics really can save you huge delays, especially now digital is picking up pace. And, that actually leads us to another key point. What happens when apostilles just aren't accepted at all, paper or digital? Because, like we touched on, there's still quite a few countries that simply aren't members of that Hague Convention. So for them, an apostille doesn't mean anything.
Right. So if you're, say, a UK business person wanting to set up shop in Dubai, you find out pretty quickly an apostille won't cut it there. I think the source mentioned the UAE specifically and also Vietnam and Kuwait as examples. For places like that, the apostille route is just closed. So what do you do instead? What's the alternative?
That's right. For those non-member countries, you have to go down a different path, usually called consular legalization or embassy legalization.
Okay.
It's more like the old pre-Hague system in some ways. It usually involves several steps. First, you might need your document notarized, then perhaps certified by a solicitor, and then the final step is submitting it directly to that country's embassy or consulate, usually here in London. It often involves appointments, specific forms.
Yeah.
It's a more involved, multi-stage process than just getting the single apostille stamp.
Okay, so you've got the Hague countries where paper is usually fine and e-apostils are sometimes fine. Then you've got non-Hague countries needing this whole separate embassy process. It's quite a lot to keep track of. So for you listening, facing this, how can you make absolutely sure your documents are going to be accepted where they need to go without any nasty surprises? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. And look, here's the absolute golden rule. The one piece of advice that can save more trouble than anything else: always try to get the requirements in writing directly from the person or organization you're sending the documents to.
Get it in writing from the recipient.
Exactly. Don't just rely on a website you found, which might be out of date. Don't rely on a quick phone call where something might get misunderstood.
Yeah.
Ask them, the university, the employer, the lawyer, whoever, to email you exactly what form of legalization they need.
That makes sense. Avoids any he said, she said.
Totally. It can genuinely save you weeks of delay and potentially hundreds of pounds in wasted fees if you get it wrong. Beyond that crucial step, other good practices are, yes, checking the official embassy or legalization websites for the destination country. They often have guidance. Or, if it's complex or you're unsure, you can ask specialists in this field, people who do this day in, day out. Because it's really vital to remember, every single situation can be slightly different. Acceptance might not just depend on the country, but on the specific receiving authority. Is it a university, a court, a government agency, a local notary? They might have slightly different interpretations or internal rules.
That's a really good point. The end user matters. So let's try and make this even more concrete. Connecting it to real-world situations might help. Can we talk about some popular destinations for UK folks and, the common reasons they need documents legalized for those places?
Sure, yeah, we see definite patterns. Spain, for example, is always high on the list. People need documents legalized often for weddings there, or buying property, or just general relocation, getting residency sorted.
Okay, Spain, where else?
The USA is another big one. Very often it's for employment purposes, proving qualifications, background checks, and also for academic credentials, getting degrees recognized for further study or jobs.
Right, and the UAE, you mentioned them earlier.
Yes, the UAE. Because it's non-Hague, the reasons are often business-related, setting up a company, sorting out contracts, legal procedures, and that all goes via the consular legalization route we talked about.
Got it. Any others that come up frequently?
Australia is common too, often for permanent migration applications, skills assessments, and again, getting UK qualifications recognized down under. And then closer to home, France and Germany, we see a steady flow for various legal documents, family matters, maybe inheritance things, that sort of area.
It really helps to hear those specific examples. You start to see how this process underpins so many big life events and international moves. Understanding those common needs definitely makes it feel a bit less abstract, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It shows it's not just bureaucracy for its own sake, it's facilitating real life across borders. And ultimately, whether the place you're dealing with needs a traditional paper apostille or they're fully on board with digital e-apostles or you have to go the embassy route, the core message is find out exactly what they need. Understanding those specific requirements is just crucial for getting your proof accepted globally. But the good news is it is doable. You can navigate this successfully if you do that homework up front.
Definitely sounds that way. Okay, so wrapping up, it feels like we've covered a lot. Paper, digital, Hague, non-Hague. But it leaves me with a kind of forward-looking thought.
Yeah.
This rise of the e-apostille, this growing acceptance globally.
hmm
What does that really signal about the future? Where might this digitization of cross-border documents take us next? Could we see it simplifying even more complex things down the line, maybe moving beyond just legal docs into areas like, I don't know, international health records, or maybe even protecting intellectual property rights across borders? What do you think?